All right. Hello, grade 8s. We are doing topic 10.4 today. So, this is the final topic in chapter 10, which is great news. Solving linear equations, two-step equations that look like this. So, A, which is a number, brackets, variable x plus b, a number equals c. Okay, so this is our last equation that we need to know how to solve. So let's take a look at these models again. We've been doing a lot of these models, so we should be getting the hang of it now. So we could write this in a couple of different ways. So I want to show you this. So on the left-hand side here, we can see there is 2x's and there is 6 white squares. So we could write this as 2x, right, minus 6, because when a square is white, that means it's negative, equals, over here we have 6 red squares, which would be positive 6. So 2x minus 6 equals 6. Now this is one way we could write this, but there's actually also another way that we could write this. So let me show you. So I'm going to put this up here. So 2x minus 6 equals 6. The other way we could write this is if we could group these on the left-hand side into similar groups. So check this out. So you can see how I just put brackets around these things because they're very similar. So now we could say we have 2 of these. So what are these? These are x, 1x minus 3. Do you see that? So I grouped these. So this could be x minus 3. So I could say we have 2 bracket x minus 3. And then equals, this side would still be 6. So these are actually the same thing. Okay, both of these equations are technically correct. The bottom one is correct and the top one is correct. So this bottom one, I broke it down into similar little expressions. And then I said, how many of these expressions do we have? So x minus 3, we have 2 of them. So let's check out the next slide. And let's try to do the same thing here. So let's try to get both of them. So on the left-hand side, we have, what do we have? We have 8 red squares. So it's 8 whole. On the right-hand side, we have 4 x's, and then we have all of these 8 negatives. So we could write this in 2 ways. I'm going to first write it in the new way of breaking it down into similar sections. So we can see, let's break this out. So we have 4 different sections, and it is going to be x minus 2. Can we see that? So we have 4 bracket x minus 2. Okay, so that is what this side is showing. This side would also be showing with the way that we learned before. 8 equals 1, 2, 3, 4. 4x minus 8. Okay, so it's showing us both of these models. So yeah, as long as you are understanding that this could be represented in 2 ways if we break it out into x minus 2's, and we have 4 of them. So that is the deal with these models for this unit. So let's take a look here at one new term we need to learn. We need to learn distributive property, okay? Distributive property. Remember that term. It's going to be important, okay? So the distributive property is an interesting term that you need when you're dealing with numbers, or when you're dealing with a number outside and an expression inside the brackets. So what distributive property means is we are going to distribute this 4 inside the brackets, okay? Distribute the 4 inside the brackets, or distribute the number outside of the brackets to the inside. So how the distributive property works is, with this first equation here, I didn't put a variable in. So that's all numbers, 4, 2 plus 3. So if we were to just solve this normally, we would say 2 plus 3 is 5, right? 5. And then 4 times 5, because the 4 is out here, is 20. Right? 4 times 5 is 20. So we know the answer to this is 20. Now I want to show you the distributive property. The distributive property is we're going to take this 4 and we're going to move it to the 2. We're going to multiply it in. we're going to multiply this 4 inside the brackets. So 4 is going to multiply by 2, and then 4 is also going to multiply by 3. It's going to do both. So this right here is the distributive property, okay? This is the distributive property. So remember that. You take the number outside the brackets and you multiply it by both of the numbers inside of the brackets. So if we were to do this and rewrite our equation, we would have 4, right? 4 times 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. So we would have 8. We're still going to have our plus sign, plus 4 times 3, 4 times 3, which is 12. And we get our answer of 20 again. So you can see that this is correct. This is the distributive property. So I took the 4 and I moved it inside of the brackets both ways. So over here on the right hand side, I have the distributive property with the variable. Okay, so let's follow our same rule as before. We're going to take the 5 and we're going to distribute it. First, we're going to multiply it by x. Then second, we're going to multiply it by 3. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this. So 5 multiplied by x is going to be 5x. 5x. Okay, plus now we're going to have to multiply the 5 by our 3. 5x plus 15 equals 18. So now we're here, and this looks like chapter, I believe, 10.2, where we have a two-step equation, and now we need to solve this equation. So then what we would do is we would follow our steps of subtracting 15 from this side because we are adding 15. So we would go 5x plus 15 minus 15 equals 18 minus 15. Okay, and we know that if we're adding 15 and then we're subtracting 15, these are going to cancel each other out, right? Because it's the same thing. It would equal 0. So now we have 5x equals 18 minus 15 is 3. Okay, and now we're going to have our 5x equals 3. So if we want to figure out what x is, we then now need to divide, do the opposite operation of the multiplication here. So we would divide by 5 on this side, divide by 5 on this side. These would cancel each other out, and we would be left with x equals 3 divided by 5. And in that case, it would be a decimal number. So we could write the decimal out or leave it as a fraction like this. Okay, so the most important thing here that we're dealing with, the newest thing, is this distributive property. Okay, so remember the distributive property. Let's try some more problems here and see how we're doing. So first one, there is 2 ways to solve these equations. You can divide first or you can distribute first. Okay, so these are the 2 different ways. So since we just learned about the distributive property, why don't we start with distribute first? Okay, so that we're going to start over here on this side. So let's do 4x plus 8 equals 600. So first we're going to distribute this 4 into the brackets. So we're going to multiply it by there and multiply it by there. Okay, I find it helpful to draw out these arrows so we don't get confused in what we're doing. So 4 times x is going to be 4x because we don't know what x is, plus 8 times 4, 4 times 8, which is going to be 32. Okay, 8 times 4, 32, very nice. And now what we want to do, and this is still going to equal 600. So we've just distributed the 4 inside of our brackets. So next step is we're trying to isolate the variable. As always, we're always trying to isolate our variable x. We're always trying to get him by himself. That's our goal of this unit in every single chapter. Get the x, get the variable by itself. Okay, so first step is we're going to subtract 32 from both sides. Okay, so this side we're going to do, let me write this out like this, 4x plus 32, and now what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 32 equals 600, and we're going to subtract 32 from this side. So you can see I subtracted that. This makes a 0 pair here. This equals 0 plus 32 minus 32. So these are cancel each other out to equal 0. Oops, I didn't want to erase it. And this we're going to do 600 minus 32 to get an answer of, what would that be? 568. And over here we have left over 4x. And so now what we're going to do is we see that this side is multiplying. The left-hand side is multiplying 4 times x. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide by 4. And we have to do whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. Okay, there we go. And then these are going to cross each other off. So we're going to get x equals 568 divided by 4, which is actually 142. Okay, so this is how we solved by distributing first. So distributing first, and we did was we moved the 4 inside the brackets like so. And then we got an equation that looked like this, and we solved with our previous math skills that we have. So let's try this divide first method. Okay, so this divide first method, we're actually not going to distribute. So what we're going to do is we're going to look and see, okay, this side on the left is being multiplied by 4. So what we could do to get rid of this 4 is we could do the opposite of this. We could divide this entire side by 4 in order to have those cancel out. So look at this. I could just go like this, divided by 4. And obviously if I do that to one side, I have to do it to the other side, right? So now here we are. We're at, we've divided by 4 on both sides. And so as always, these are going to cancel each other out because multiplying and dividing. So we are left with x plus 8. Whoa, what happened there? X plus 8 equals 600 divided by 4. And 600 divided by 4 is 150. So the 4's canceled. 600 divided by 4 is 150. So now we have an equation that looks like this. Not too bad. So what we're going to do now to get x by itself is we're going to subtract 8. So x plus 8, we're going to subtract 8 equals 150 minus 8. We do it to both sides, right? The plus 8 and the minus 8 are going to cancel each other out, and we are going to be left with x equals 150 minus 8, which is 142. And we can see we got the same answer on both sides, both ways. So neither one of these ways is right or wrong. So find which way makes the most sense to you, and you can use it going forward in your solving of these type of equations. So let's just do another example here. Let's see. Yeah, we got a couple examples more. So I'll just do it a couple more times, and I'm going to kind of go through them fairly quick. So let's do the distributive method for this one. So we could go 3. We're going to distribute it inside here. So we will have our new equation will be negative 21 equals 3k plus 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so now we have our equation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So let's subtract 9 here. I sometimes like to write it below like this, or you can also write it in the inline in the equation. Whatever makes the most sense to you. So there we go, minus 9 like that. And then we're going to have to subtract 9 from negative 21. So in this case, these are going to cancel each other out, right? And we are left with negative 21 minus 9 equals 3k. So negative 21 minus 9. So we're already in the hole, 21, and we're going deeper 9. So we're going to be at negative 30 equals 3k. And now we're going to divide by 3 because we are multiplying by 3, and we're going to divide this side by 3. These are going to cancel each other out. Negative 30 divided by 3 is negative 10 equals k. There's our answer. So that was using the distributive property. Now let's do the same thing by dividing first. So negative 21 equals 3k plus 3. So first step is we're going to divide. This is the other way, okay? So these are two separate ways. So we're going to divide by 3. We have to do that to the other side as well. We can't just do it to one side. Divide by 3. And we're going to end up with these canceling each other out. And negative 21 divided by 3 is negative 7 equals k plus 3. And so now we're going to subtract 3 from here and subtract 3 from this side. and we're going to get an answer of -7 minus 3. So we're in the whole 7, and we're going down further. So that's going to be -10. These are going to cancel each other out, equals k. And you can see we got the same answer using both methods. Very nice. Let's do another one. Okay, so distribute -5. Let's distribute it in. Distribute and distribute. Okay, so -5 times w is going to be -5w. So let's rewrite this. -10 equals -5w plus 13 times -5 times. Let's see what that is. It's going to be -65. So plus minus 65. So we can write it like this. Plus minus 65. But the other trick is if we're adding a negative, in this case, it's the same thing as subtracting. So we can write it like this first, but then what I would recommend is to rewrite it like this. -10 equals -5w minus 65. Okay, we don't need to write that plus there because we're adding a negative number, which is the same as subtracting. So now we can solve using our opposite operations. So first step is we're going to try to get our variable by itself, right? Our variable is here. So we're going to add 65 because we're subtracting 65. So let's add 65 here, add 65. And we're going to add 65 on the other side. So -10 plus 65. So we're in the whole 10. And then we're adding 65. So that's going to be positive 55. Okay. And over here, these are going to cancel each other out. So we're left with -5w. And now this side on the right is being multiplied. So we're going to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. And we're going to divide by -5. And we have to do the same thing on this side. And so we're going to end up with these canceling out like this. And we're going to end up with 55 divided by -5 is going to be -11 equals w. And so there's our answer, doing distributing first. And let's do the other way of dividing first. So -10 equals -5w plus 13. Okay, so now we're going to divide first. So let's divide this side by -5 and divide this side by -5. And we end up with these canceling each other out. And we end up with over here, -10 divided by -5 equals +2. Remember, if we have a negative and a negative being multiplied, it's a positive, or being multiplied or divided, it's a positive number. So 2 equals w plus 13. Okay, now we're going to subtract 13. Subtract 13 because it's the opposite of adding. And we're going to subtract 13 from here. Okay, so these are going to cancel each other out. And we're going to be left with 2 minus 13. So we're above ground 2. And we're going to go down 13. So we are going to end up with -11 equals w. Very nice. And that's how it's done. So let's get into some word problems.